Since the dawn of time, man has had one question. What's cooler than dinosaurs? How about a bunch of dinosaurs and you strap a bunch of lasers and guns to them and they go... That's right, we're doing danger dinos, laser lizards. I got a great deal on a bunch of T'au suits on eBay. And I want to make a dinosaur T'au army. It's going to be awesome. Mostly using the Seraphon line from Age of Sigmar. And I've already got a bunch of ideas for it beyond the spearhead. We're going to start very simple. We're going to turn the Saurus Warriors into stealth suits. But then I have other ideas like the Croxagores are going to be broadsides. And the Carnosaur is going to be a riptide. Oh, I'm pumped. If I could just get these instructions open. We're going to start off real simple here and take these Saurus Warriors and start building them in preparation to turn them into stealth battlesuits. Start off by just building the models like normal. Then we're going to take Mr. Stealth Suit here. Ironically, the day I'm recording this, they just announced a new line of them for Kill Team. Oopsie doodles. Let's pop off the armor panels and get that gun cut off. What's the name of the gun? Burst Cannon, that's the name. Not done with you yet, Mr. Stealth Suit. I need your left arm. Give me that. Thank you all. Now the most annoying part, drilling the barrels. These are pretty small barrels, but I think they're worth it. Start small and then get a bigger drill. Hopefully it's in the center. Looks okay. Alright, now we've got our Saurus Warrior. You can kind of see, we're going to put the gun up here. I picked a bad one for the first pose. His arm is a little bit too up in the air. So we're going to have to go and chop his arm and kind of realign his elbow. We should just be able to cut it and turn it a little bit more inward. And use some sprue glue to reattach it. We're also going to take some sprue glue and attach the arm to the burst cannon. We cut right at the tip of the hand, so the handle of the previous weapon is more like the handle of the new burst cannon. We're also going to do a relative 1-to-1 replacement with his left hand. Kind of try and find a spot on his arm that the width matches. Chop it off and then secure it with some plastic cement. Next, we're going to take the armor panels and throw these up on his shoulders. We need some more doodads. I found this antenna on top of the stealth suit. I ripped it off, flattened it out, and found a good spot for it right on the back of the tail of this Saurus Warrior. We can just kind of flatten it off and use these existing ropes to say that's what's securing it. And with that, the model's basically done. Really simple Kitbash to start things off. We do need a base though, so we're going to take our two-part epoxy and mix them together just to get a little bit of elevation started. I got some rainforest jungle bits from Epic Basing. These look like fun. They're more resin printed bits instead of the bushy bushes I've used in the past. And they should work good with how I want to paint these guys. And now we take some dark earth texture paste and just smear this all over it just to get a little bit of a sandy dirt texture in between the plants. And with that, it is time for painting already. We go ahead and prime them black. This is always the best part because it brings all the different elements together. Looks great. Then we're going to take this very light gray primer I have. It almost looks white, but it is a light gray. And do a very heavy zenithal from above and from the side. Really want most of it gray, just keeping it out of the darkest recesses to prepare it for some contrast paints, which is what we're mostly going to be using. Starting in the softest area, like the chest and the tummy, we're going to go further out into the armor and get darker and darker using these contrast paints each time. On the tummy, we're going to start with Mantis Warrior Green, so greenish yellow, and we're just going to basically cover the entire model in it. Well, not the entire model, but the entire body of the model. All of his skin and armor. Working quickly with a large brush, you can apply this and then just pull it away from any of the flat panels and just keep it in the recesses. Seraphon models are made for contrast paint. It works beautifully on them. If you ever got frustrated trying to put contrast paint on like a big old flat space marine, put on one of these guys. It's the best. Now that they're dried, we're going to follow up with Striking Green Scorpion. This is much more heavily green, saturated contrast paint. And we're going to do this just on the armored parts, leaving the soft underbelly of the original Mantis Warrior green color. Again, just working quickly and wiping it away. And then once it's drying, don't touch it. Let it sit. These are Contrast Paint 101 tips, but they're helpful. Now that that's dry, you can see the difference of the colors. Then we're going in with Creed Camo. Really mixing these up. And then going on just the most raised parts of the armor. In my mind, the older that the armored carapace of these guys get, the darker it gets. Real simple paint job, but it looks great. I could go and individually highlight all the armor panels and work on this stuff, but I want to keep these guys relatively simple. I'm not going to call this speed painting or any other catchy YouTube phrase, but I mean, it kind of is. I do want to work on the tummies a bit because the contrast paint is a little bit too contrasty. So I take some of this Imp Yellow and I mix in a little bit of the original Mantis Warrior contrast paint just to get a little bit more yellow-green, and then just do some quick bursts just to lighten up those stomachs a bit. And I can do the same thing on the hands and the feet and anywhere we have the original base skin color. The main problem with contrast paints is they tend to pool too heavily in some of the recesses and the contrast gets too intense, and using an airbrush can kind of lighten that because airbrushes apply paint perfectly flatly over the entire surface, reducing any contrast. In a similar way, you can also use that to darken. If you take this dark contrast paint, well, this is AK Quick Gen Orc Flesh. I just took this down the back spine just to darken things a little bit. On the very top of the model and down the spine, just because I thought I could use a little bit more darker tips. And with that, most of the model's basically done, the entire body, so we can move on to some parts like the mouth and the eyes. I'm gonna take some Flesh Tears Red, just to do his tongue and his little mouth. And we just take some pink and then coat his tongue in that. We take some Bone White and just do quick little dots and lines on his teeth, getting those highlighted. Then I take the entire mouth and wash it with thinned down Reichland Flesh Shade. Now for the eyes, I thought a nice light blue would be striking. Blink. Alright, now we've got to do the armor. And we're not just doing metal armor, we are doing stone armor and weapons. Basically, I was inspired by, have you ever seen the Disney animated movie Atlantis? They discover Atlantis and they have this ancient technology powered by these crystals and makes everything blue and glowy, but they're also entirely all made out of stone, so they have weapons and flying craft, and it's basically electrically powered glowing stone stuff, and it's really cool. So that's what I'm trying to do here. We take this gray contrast paint and just slop it all over. Doesn't really matter, it's just a base coat to get into all the recesses. And then we take an old dry brush and we're gonna be stippling the heck out of things. So dry brush, stippling, just working with minimum amounts of paint. Got a whole bunch here. We got this gray and then we also have this blue and this jade. The blue and the jade are for like the undertones of the stone. So we start with the blue and just start stippling it on. Real rough texture all over. And then we do the same thing with the jade. You gotta mix all these paints together on the palette as you do it. Kinda trying to stick to the highlights, but also you just want that dotted texture all over the stuff. Then we start mixing in some of the gray, just to get the actual base gray stone color. Keep it going, keep stippling, keep dry brushing, just jab at it. Then we keep mixing in the gray, and then we also keep mixing in some ice yellow to start brightening it up. There you go, you can kind of start to see it form together, coming along. Keep mixing it in just a little bit more. We've got ropes and straps holding on all their armor panels, so we're gonna paint those in dark brown, and then highlight them, kind of all scratchy, short little highlights with some light brown. Now it is time for some OSL. We're going real simple this time, so we just take white ink and start to put it into all the recesses. This is where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I know I want the weapons to glow. So you'll see in this video, I make all the weapons glow. I thought about doing it to the armor panels too, but I'm worried that might be too much. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if I should try to do it to the armor panels. Now that we have the white ink dried in all the recesses, we're going to take the same white ink through an airbrush and just give it a little bit of a glow around all those points. You gotta be real careful and precise. And then we're gonna take this Athermaic contrast paint, Athermaic blue. This stuff's really thin, light contrast paint. It's super watery, kind of like a wash, but I think it works really cool for a glowing teal turquoise color, especially through the airbrush. You just got to do a lot of thin layers because it's very thin. You don't want to build up too much, which I do a few times. But now the weapons and bodies are pretty much done. Real simple paint job, but I think it's cool looking. Let's work on the bases a bit, shall we? Just gonna take the exact same contrast paints that we used on the body. Why? Because these guys are my stealth unit. They're stealth suits. They probably should be the same color as their environments, right? So we take those 3 green contrast paints and just slop them all over the plants. We're also gonna put it all over the ground. These guys need to be stealthy. They're bred to blend into their environments, probably. Giant glowing weapons probably aren't super useful when you're trying to be stealthy, but whatever. Then we're gonna take some watered down brown and light brown paints and just kind of smear these all over the bases just to get a nice dirt color. No, you know, nothing too crazy. Wow, what a great tip, C-Top. You paint dirt brown. Where'd you come up with that one? And with that, my Stealth Saurus Warriors are done. Or my T'au Kitbash army. Oh, I know I probably shouldn't have started another Kitbash army, but it's just so cool. Dinosaurs and lasers, man. You can't lose. These guys were super fun. I think I just heard that stealth suits might get changed to a 5-man squad, so that's a little bit annoying, but I can whip up 2 more of these. They're not too bad. Looking forward to doing the next ones. We've got some Croxagore broadsides or some riptides, or I don't know what I want to do. If you have any suggestions for these guys, let me know what to do for dinosaurs in the T'au army. I'm excited. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you enjoyed this video or the paint scheme or the tutorial or me just rambling about nonsense. We'll see you next time. Bye.